we're good.
Alrighty. So first question from the survey would be for me. When, if incorporating technological games like Jeopardy, Kahoot, etc., do you see an impact in the students' education? Out of 6 responses, 3 people chose 5, as in it does make an impact, and 1 person chose 1, 2 persons chose 4, sorry. And then second question was, educational games are used to help encourage students to learn outside a classroom setting. Do you believe this is true or false? I have 83% of submissions saying it's true. And I have 1 person saying that they don't think they encourage them, but rather help students learn in a different way. And that question, I wasn't expecting someone to post that. And now that I look at it and have read it, it made me think like, okay, probably they're right. You know, it doesn't really help them encourage, but it rather just like help them learn in a different way. And a lot of students have different ways of learning. So I thought that's very interesting to read. Third question was from Analia, which is, how much has COVID-19 affected your way of learning? From 1 being not affected to 5 being affected. 1 person chose 1, 2 people chose 3, 1 person chose 4, and 2 people chose 5. Another question Analia had was, as a teacher or future teacher, how likely are you to include aspects of virtual learning? Example, school websites or Canvases. Out of 1 being no virtual learning and 5 being yes virtual learning, 3 people chose 3 and 3 people chose 4. So what are your thoughts on that, Analia?
I mean, that's not surprising because I feel like after spending since now March of having to adapt to online learning and having to find programs that are engaging to students and at the same time make it easy for them to access and doesn't make them feel discouraged, because I feel like if you don't have a good time and you feel like you're not doing something right, you're not going to want to log in to do it. You're going to just say, forget it. I don't want to touch it. I'm just going to mess up, or it's not going to be right. So it's not encouraging to them, especially little kids, which is where I want to teach. I've seen it firsthand. My mom's a first grade teacher. Her kids, like, she has so many problems, especially like even just logging in sometimes. Like, she has students have to email her like they couldn't get in. She's had students tell her they can't hear her. So like hearing that some people wouldn't incorporate it at all is not surprising to me, because it's a pain in the butt. And I've seen my mom go through it, that it's a pain in the butt to try to use this program or any program.
Nice. Next question will be Kaylin's. So first question was, does the lack of technology in the classroom hinder a student from reaching their full potential? From 1 being no, it does not hinder a student, to 5 being yes, it does. 1 person chose 2, 2 people chose 3, 2 people chose 4, and 1 person chose 5. Second question was, how much was technology integrated in your K-12 educational experience? 50% of the submission said every day. 16.7% said once a week. 16.7% said once a month. And 16.7% said rarely. Any thoughts?
It's interesting because I just remember like going back to when I was in school, we always had like computer lab days. So it was like once a week we go to the computer lab and work on like basic skills like typing, using it for like research purposes. So I don't know, I expected more people, but I understand like the lack of resources, the lack of internet, it hinders everyone. And I don't know, I just kind of expected more people to be like, yeah, without technology, it is hindering children from reaching their full potential. But I don't know, it's interesting seeing like how everyone saw it.
So next questions will be Melissa's questions. First one was, due to the circumstances we are currently in, living in a global pandemic and all our courses and schools still being able to work through technology, how beneficial do you think technology is at the moment? From 1 being no, not beneficial, to 5 being very beneficial. All responses said yes, it is very beneficial. And then second question was, now reflect on your current online learning / school experiences. What is non-beneficial about learning online for you? So my 6 responses were, it's hard to fully comprehend a lesson/lecture, not being in a learning environment, school classroom. I can't discuss or connect with students in my class as very much. You can easily get distracted. No interface learning with instructor or students. And emailing your professor does not guarantee a response in a timely manner.
True.
Well, I agree with those responses. Everybody has different difficulties when it comes to online learning. So I was really curious to see what other people were expecting. And I do see those difficulties in my online experience. Like some teachers, they don't respond in like 2 days, that they say they will. And before I feel like they used to, but now they take a way much longer time. So yeah, that's very interesting, and I was really curious about what people were also struggling with for online learning.
And then last questions will be from Anai. So the first one would be, whether it be in your classroom or in the students' homes, on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the least and 5 being the most, how likely are you to use technology to accomplish your goals in teaching students in 10 years from today? I have 2 people chose 3, 2 people chose 4, and 2 people chose 5. Second question was, whether it be in your classroom or the students' homes, on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being least, 5 being the most, how likely was it for you to use technology to accomplish your goals or teaching students 10 years ago? 2 people chose 1, 3 people chose 2, and 1 person chose 3.
Cool. I think that's pretty interesting because it shows how much teachers have became dependent on technology now, especially under the circumstances we use. I think it's pretty interesting to see the huge gap that obviously back then people wouldn't use technology as much, and now people see themselves using technology a lot more than they would have back then. I think also that, of course, it has its downfalls. I think people are just getting so much used to using technology, and with the requirement of having to use laptops and internet to accomplish their schoolwork, I think one of the barriers for that would be that people are a lot more prone to going online and using it for inappropriate reasons that isn't school related. One point could be cyberbullying. So I think that's a big barrier that incorporating technology into school and education that people face nowadays. So I think it's interesting how much we have shifted from not being so dependent on technology to now being very, very dependent on technology for education purposes.
And I just quickly want to show you guys a chart because I thought it was like crazy, like how the people like chose it, how like from 10 years ago today, a lot of people said technology will be very beneficial, and 10 years ago, like it wasn't as very beneficial.
But we also have the people like Analia had mentioned, her mom, she had said that she would go back without a doubt to not using technology. So it's a big spectrum of people that are very comfortable with using technology, and like Analia's mom, she's not going to use technology as much. So I think it's pretty interesting how diverse the answers are for all of that.
I think too, it also depends on the grade level, because think about how easy it is for us to submit an assignment. We know how to download it, turn it into a PDF. It's not easy to teach a first grader, a second grader, probably even a third grader. It takes them a minute to get it. That's part of the reason why she has said, like, obviously she would take some things, like she's found a lot of good, like little things to take, but nothing like that's going to make her change her whole routine when she goes back.
Yeah. And what I was also thinking about is, like, obviously for elementary school, it's not as easy as it is for high school and college professors to say, okay, take this exam on Canvas, and Canvas will automatically grade it for you, and it'll make their lives so much easier as well. Obviously, those teachers and those professors will stick to technology because it just makes their lives a lot easier on the grading portion. as opposed to like an elementary school teacher. Obviously, little kids can't go online and take a quiz online, so they're going to have to spend individual time grading all of these things. So it has its perks for one side and it doesn't for the other.
Not to mention teachers of like special needs kids too. Having them try and use technology, it can always be difficult if you don't know, like, it's hard.
If you think about it, a lot of those kids probably had instructional aides who help them log into their computers. Yes, they have their parents there, but it's not the same. These people are trained to, not saying that like parents can't do it, like,
Yeah, but parents are working too, so they're busy.
exactly. Alrighty, so we hit